Welcome, dear students. This session focuses on the phonological differences between American and British English. I hope by the end of this session you would be further able to distinguish between the British and the American pronunciation and the phonological systems. Well, my dear students, if I quote Fletcher 1990, he asserts that American English is the variety that is spoken by the majority of Americans with no noticeable Eastern or Southern accent. What he means by this is that the variety of standard American English, that is generally called general American English as well, is a variety that is as much neutral as possible and that does not have the influence of the southern or eastern dialects and does not reflect those varieties of pronunciation that exist geographically, in the United States of America. Another distinction to characterize it is that it is the appropriate pronunciation for EFL learners who take American English as their model. So, apart from those people who learn it as their first language, or even for those who learn it as second language, those speakers who learn it as a foreign language for international communication or for travel purposes and who take the American model, this neutral variety that is called General American English is the variety that they opt for. If we quote Pyle's 1971, he remarks that some of the prevalent American pronunciations of the words do not occur in standard English. And if you look at the screen, you would see there are certain examples. Notice the word figure, leisure, ways, tomato. I would like you to compare it with, on the other hand, the prevalent British pronunciation of them that are current in American English. Instead of, figure, leisure, not leisure, not r sound. Ways, tomato, a sound. So, this is how, some of the varieties of British English are acceptable in the American English, but it is not the case vice versa. Moving onwards, I would say Leon's 1981 states that there are many differences between the speech of the average well-educated American and that of the average well-educated British. Swan has also pointed out some of the differences, and in 2005, he clarifies the most important general difference between American and British English, and he gives certain examples for that. To him, certain words which are pronounced with oo, that is represented with the sign of U and two dots, is in most of the American English, you would find it as U in the British English. So Americans pronounce it as oo, British would pronounce it as you. I would show you some examples of that here. There are also words in which t, d, n, and sometimes s and l are followed by u or u in writing. My dear students, if you look at the screen, you would notice here on the screen there are certain examples of American and British English. Here are the words. These are the American pronunciations, and these are the British, options of pronunciations, these ones. Let us look at some of the examples. I would start with an easy example. For example, duty. Here, notice this. Americans pronounce it as you. So they would pronounce it as duty. Whereas the British would pronounce it as du, duty, duty. You sound, this becomes a part of that. Again, see the next example. Tune, tune. Whereas the British pronunciation is tune, 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 ju sound comes. When you compare British and American English for the word new, you can notice new. New is the pronunciation in American English, whereas in the British English it is new, new, you. This sound, generally we follow this one, by the way, in Pakistani English. In the same way, you can notice comparatively a longer word, illuminate. Americans pronounce it as illuminate, oo, illuminate. British would pronounce it as illuminate, illuminate, U sound. You know, oo sound and U sound. This is the difference in the British and the American English pronunciation of this particular vowel sound. Well, my dear students, British English has one more vowel than the American English. And this is the round, short, this one, if you notice on the screen, or used in words like caught, dog, got, off, stop, lost. If we compare with the American English, these words are pronounced either with a, like the first vowel in father, other, a sound, or a, as in caught. So, British English would have more a sound as compared to American English would have more a sound in all these words. Some words that are written with a plus consonant, for example, fast. This A followed by a consonant have different pronunciations with, a in standard Southern British English and with a in American English and some other varieties of English. So, the British English would go for a sound, whereas the American English in these cases would go for a sound. In many varieties of American English, t and d sounds, these two sounds, both have a very light voiced pronunciation, t between vowel. So writer and rider, as we pronounce them, they would be different in American English. They would be pronounced, almost in the same way. Whereas when you go to the British English, they are quite different. British English would be writer, rider, d, and t would be clearly pronounced with a difference in British English, whereas American English would not do so. Another example of the differences is words ending in unstressed il, the words that end with ile. For example, fertile, reptile, missile, etc. They are pronounced with I sound in British English. Whereas in the American English, this is not pronounced in them. So, for example, if you look at the example of fertile would be pronounced in American English. Fertile, like we pronounce turtle. So pronunciation would rhyme with turtle. Whereas when it comes to British English, the pronunciation would be fertile, il sound. Like her tile, rhyming with this her tile. Fertile. The American one is fertile, like we pronounce turtle. So I hope these few examples would help you further distinguish between the phonological differences of American English and the British English.